Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and welcome back to another rapid fire critique where I take 10 of your best photos and give them a critiquey McCritiquerson. If you'd like to submit your best 10 images, head on over to bit.ly/FroCritiques. Now let's jump into these images by Boris Danielson. Boris Danielson looks to be shooting concert photos, which is right up my alley because, well, I made a living shooting concert photos. And by making a living, I mean I actually shot a ton of photos, and I would have made a living if I actually got paid. There's a difference between making a living and getting paid, or just shooting a ton of shows and stuff and really not making a living at it, because I never really fully made a living out of shooting concerts. There's very few people that can actually pull that off. Okay, so here we go. First shot, we've got Slash featuring Miles Kennedy. This one is featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. What was it taken with? It's not telling me, so I will just critique it as if. And I know a lot of people get angry like, oh, it doesn't matter what it's shot with. Yeah, I know it doesn't, but it also helps me to know the exposures and to know what they're shooting with so I can give some feedback based off of the gear that they have. In terms of this shot, this is a flat out snapshot of Slash right in front of you, which is perfectly fine. But this is what you get when you're in the pit. When you're in the pit, it makes it more difficult to get unique and interesting shots. Angles change a little bit. Slash may not like this because he's got a double chin going on right underneath there. You could, I'm not going to sit here and say you could, well, yes, you could bring down the framing just a little bit, but I do like how it is composed. You could go a little tighter if possible, but again, not totally upset with it. The edit could be a little more crunchy and punchy. Crunchy and punchy. You got to punch those pinks, like boomify it. Oh, I haven't said that stuff in a while. I like the way the lights are in the background. That's what makes shooting concerts amazing sometimes, is that you have that ability to just capture an image and the lights are awesome in the background. Here, they're pretty good. This is more of a snapshot. What could make it better? Filling the frame just a little more, and honestly, black and white would go classic. I know the color is fine, but there's really not much going on in Slash's face. He's not making a guitar face, and so it's okay. From the pit, it's fine. This is not fine. Oh, I didn't even mention that the Boris, the trademark, what is this thing called? Watermark. I'm not a big fan of watermarks. So still not a fan of the watermark, but definitely not a fan of this photo as it was shot this wide. Again, I don't see how it was shot, so it makes it difficult for me to give some feedback. It's just not interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say not interesting. It just doesn't really work. And this looks like it's an opening act, which means the lights aren't that good for an opening act. Yeah, it's cool that she's doing this. Maybe go vertical and just get the hair in there like this and the light. Some proper aspect ratio. Didn't mean to cut it off on the right, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say. Somebody's like, if you hold down Shift, nah, they're full of crap. If you hold down Shift, it still takes the picture anyway. So I would try to find that angle because this horizontal does not work at all in the way that it is. In terms of exposure, it's fine. This doesn't work either. You're too far away. I'm not sure where the hell you are in this one, whether you're in the crowd or not, but this is definitely way too loose. There's no reason to shoot it this loose. Yeah, this is a bass player. Look at that. They've got a GoPro Hero Session right there. You got to come in much tighter. You got to fill the frame with something like this. You know, you want all the bass in there. I don't like this composition I just laid out, but even if you cut off the bass, one thing you don't want to do is cut off the fingers, which makes it a little more difficult, but then you're cutting off the head of the bass, so it isn't that good if you do that. In this case, you're just going to have to find the aspect ratio and the composition that works. It's a little bit more something like this, which is tighter, but it's way too loose of an image. Still don't know what it's shot with. I really wish we knew what it was shot with. I don't know if this is Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm, because I say that because I think the next picture is. The exposure is just way off here. I don't know if they're shooting in manual exposure or if they're shooting in the auto aperture priority mode, but in this case, you need to just, well, you need to step to the right because we got microphone mouth going on here. You don't really get much of her face in here. You're getting a lot of her crotch, which, you know, it's one of those things when you're shooting a female artist, it's going to look different than shooting a male artist because Most of them put socks in their pants, the males, that is. It's just, I'm trying to find the positives in it. You know, if you came in tighter, you know, I love the lights in the background. Maybe drop down a little lower so that you can line up this light here in the background with the back of her head. The problem is her hand is in her mouth, which makes this a no-go image. Plus, there's not a lot of light there. Now, speaking of editing and all of that, what a great transition. This video is brought to you by FroPack 1, 14 custom Lightroom presets that Steven and I created that you can play with over at FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. Check them out. Oh, this is a concert photo. Yeah, this is one from the pit. I just love how the black and white Boomify crushed it on this one. The color was pretty good, but this is what I was talking about with the slash ones. Like, boom. It instantly became more classic with my black and white Boomify right there. So if you'd like to pick them up, hit add to cart. They're going to be $30 instead of $50. That's 40% off for a limited amount of time. Again, FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. Let's get back into the images. So that's Lzzy Hale. That looks like Lzzy Hale because it looks like her cheekbones. You can tell from there. So this is fine. I mean, it's from the side. She's difficult to shoot. The black and white, I like it more. It's a little more classic than just a boring, basic color image. But it's just a boring shot of a singer singing. And that's not your fault that it's a boring shot of the singer singing. That's the nature of shooting live shows from the pit. It's pretty boring and bland. So trying to make this better is very freaking difficult because I couldn't even make them better myself when I was shooting in the pit. So I do like the fact that you went black and white. The composition is a little better, a little too much headroom for my taste. So I would try to go like this. That's just better composition. So moving on. Again, no lights in the face. Not your fault, but I've seen so many times at concerts where the lights aren't even on, and I see the photographers and hear them going click, 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 click. I'm like, hey guys, what are you shooting? Because, you know, there's no light, and if you have no light, those photos are basically gonna suck. And that is the case most of the time. So this is okay. It's a snappy shot, but I just saw this. I do like that you have the art. I think this is this person right here up on the screen. That's pretty cool, but the rest of it, you just don't have a lot of light, which doesn't make for getting images. It's not your fault. It's just you can't do very much with this type of image. All right, from the back, I like it. I like the people's hands up in the air, the rock horns. You've got the artist up on stage, though, that she's eating the microphone, but again, with the wide angle, it's not that big of a deal. You captured the pyro. Nice job on this one, so I'm definitely happy with this shot. But there's really not much you can do from the back anyway. Who is that guy? Judas Priest? Oh, snap, wow. I think the I don't think it's processed right. I think it's too flat. Not in terms of contrast, like the contrast is fine, but the exposure it's underexposed. So again, I can't see the exposures or I would try to comment on that. Here in post-processing, I would brighten this up and tighten up the contrast. Then I would probably throw in a little bit of the shadow to bring certain things out, but definitely brighter. This just looks too flat and plain. Very similar, and I'm not going here just to do I have any other music photos in here? Well, that's outside, so that doesn't really count. That's in a bus. So we'll just use this as an example right here. Do you see the difference between the boom and the non-boom? How it's separating, making the image pop more? In this case, if this was boomified, brighter, I just think brighter would make it work better. I'm okay with the composition, sans the fact that you cut off the feet at the ankles. You cut them off there, and that's not that great, so I would try to pull back a little bit, but what I'm talking about is when you see an image that goes boom, like the black and white boomify of the guitar player and the lead singer I showed you from the presets, it stands out more. It takes an image that is looking a little bit on the blah side and boomifies it, which gives it a little more interest in my opinion. So that's what I would like to see with this one. This, composition-wise, we'll start positives. Like the composition, but how Dutch angled is this? Because if it's super Dutch angled, because this is like, I want to see the guy bending. I want to see the bend that he's on because that makes for a better image. Like Nick right here, again, to come back, is bent. I don't want to make his guitar straight up in the air because he's leaned back. That's part of what you're capturing. The fact that the sky, like everything's falling and leaning this way, I don't like that. I would have liked to have seen it as is, straight, not turned cockeyed. In terms of the exposure, it's fine because it's straight backlight. There's really not much you could do here other than go black and white, try to raise the shadows a little bit, bump your exposure by a stop or two, which is gonna introduce grain, but I think it may make for a better image, and try not to take it on such a Dutch angle. And so that's basically it for this one. Let's go back to the album and show you what I think. Yeah, I mean, they're okay. The angles you're capturing are fine. The pit, not the easiest thing to capture images from, but boomify the stuff. I just think they would pop more. Even if you went black and white with some, make it pop, because if there's not tremendous amount of interest in the images just from the subject that's being captured, or they're not doing something interesting from the pit, then it could make it look more classic to go black and white. That's just my opinion. That's what I've done with my images in the past. So it's a little more difficult to critique it if you don't see some of the exposures and what it's shot with, but I wanted to critique this one because it's a bunch of concert photos from the pit, and I know a lot of people want to try doing that. So don't forget, if you'd like to submit your images, you can send them to bit.ly/FroCritiques. If you want to pick up Fro Pack 1, it's FroKnowsPhoto.com/presets. Add it to the cart. It's already 40% off for a limited amount of time. So thank you guys very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.